If I think back to the beginning of our love story, for me, it inevitably starts on that one day somewhere in January when I was lying in bed and contemplating my future and whether my studies at university were really worth it. If they would ever lead to anything significant, which is a rabbit hole I would constantly fall into as my depressing grades continued to outweigh the value of the mental health sacrifice to obtain them. As I was lying there, I got a text from a friend who was looking for someone to move in with them for a month or two. The rent was basically non-existent, and I was bored of the constant ruminating I was doing at home. So about a month later, February 14th, I packed up all my essentials and moved out. The first night I spent there was also the first time I met our third roommate, who we don't talk to anymore. But that's a story for another day. We'll call her Celia. Celia had her birthday 2 days later and threw a party at the house. You and her were best friends. There have been a few moments in my small existence when my beliefs have been broken down, where the things I thought I knew about myself became blurry, and I've had to refocus the metaphorical lens on things like life and love and identity. I had previously come to several conclusions about how soulmates are made rather than found, and how love at first sight was just an illusion romanticized by poets and filmmakers to sell more poems and films. But those first 3.5 days before we met have become so stretched in my fish brain memory, like my soul was waiting anxiously, counting the seconds until you arrived into my life. That feeling in my stomach when I first saw you was the first crack in my understanding of what a soulmate could be. And I would call myself crazy for saying this if I hadn't experienced it, but it's like deep down I already knew who I was about to meet and I could feel the excitement in my belly. The night of the party drew to a close, and people began to leave. You had had a few drinks, so you were sleeping over to drive home in the morning. I will never forget showing you to the spare room, only for you to come into mine moments later, begging me to make room for you on my single bed, claiming that you were too scared to sleep alone in what you had dubbed the dungeon room. Though I was initially taken aback by how forward you were being, there I was, having just met you that same evening, welcoming you into my bed. We stayed up all night, just talking, kissing, getting to know each other. You told me about the small town you grew up in. I had only moved to the city less than 2 years ago, and what an adjustment that was. We talked about space and aliens, agreeing that they definitely do exist somewhere out there. We were two strangers that night, but in other ways, and in ways that I don't even fully understand, we were two well-acquainted souls, finally reunited by the strings of fate that had brought us together once again.